Hey, welcome back to Phoenix Kitchen. Today we're making homemade peach bourbon sausage links with delicious flaky hot cheddar bacon biscuits. Let me show you how we did it. All right, first things first, we're going to get together all of our ingredients to season our sausage. You'll find the recipe in the description below with everything that you need. Obviously salt, pepper, a little brown sugar, a couple other spices, maple syrup, and we're using Bourbon Crystals. I don't want too much liquid. I'll tell you that maple crystals are very easy to find on Amazon. The Bourbon Crystals, that was a very specialized thing. I found them at one supplier and they weren't cheap. They're very good, very nice for making rubs and putting into seasoning blends. I'm not sure if it's something I would purchase again because it's too easy just to use real bourbon. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. We're going to get everything measured out according to the description down below, and we're going to get it mixed in with our ground pork and get it cased. Okay, as we mentioned earlier, we do not want too much liquid. So when it comes to working with our peaches, we definitely want to strain those. Get all of that juice or syrup, whichever kind you buy. You could use fresh peaches, but keep in mind you'll want to cook them partway because they need to be just a little soft. You'll never be able to cook your sausage enough, to get them softened the way you want them if you're using fresh peaches. So we're going to go ahead and dice these up into very small dices. If we make a bratwurst, I would leave them with larger chunks, but we're going to be going through our smallest extruder into small casings for these breakfast links. So we're going to go ahead and dice those into nice small chunks. Now, one thing that's going to be a little different about these sausages than others that you've seen me do in my other videos, I bought ground pork this time. I happened to be walking through my supermarket. There were a couple packages there on sale, and I just thought to myself, why not? Not everyone has a grinder, and they might want to see how this turns out. So I went ahead and grabbed 2 pounds of the ground pork, and all I had to do was just drop it in this bowl, and we've added in the dry seasonings. We're going to get those mixed in. Once we've got those mixed in pretty well, we'll go ahead and add the maple syrup, get that incorporated, and then add our peaches, get them incorporated, and then we'll just go ahead and fill up our stuffer and be ready to stuff. I can tell you, not grinding really saves a lot of time and effort. This was a much more fun project than a lot of the sausages that I make. All right, and just like that, we're ready to go ahead and stuff these. We are not using the natural hog casings today. We are using the collagen casing. What that's going to mean to us is that we do not have to let those soak. They come dry and smoked, and we're simply going to put them on the extruder, tie a knot in one end, load the tube, twist off our individual links, and tie up the last end. They're really kind of simple to use. We're going to go ahead before we start and get meat all the way to the end of the extruder so that we're not pumping air in. We'll get this thing loaded on and get our sausages made. Once we've finished off the first batch, we'll reload the extruder with more of the collagen casings until we've finished casing all of the meat. All right, and just like that, through the magic of editing, all of these have been cased. I'm going to go ahead and snip open a couple that I had issues with closing the ends. I'm going to cook those off to test them out and see how they taste. We'll get everything together on this wire rack. We're going to put those on a pan and put them in the fridge. Even though these casings were dry, we do want them to have time to shrink up a bit around the sausages and let the sausages rebind. So those go into the fridge overnight, and we'll have these for breakfast the next day. So we have a nice thick piece of bacon. We're going to dice that up, and we're going to cook it extremely low temperatures because we want it to brown and crisp and melt the fat, but we do not want it to burn. We don't want this charred, burnt bacon taste because these are going into our biscuits. So it's going to be a very bold flavor inside those biscuits. So we go ahead and gather all of our ingredients for biscuits. You'll find the biscuit recipe down below. And that's going to include all the usual suspects along with our bacon and our cheddar cheese. One thing that you'll note here, if you're not a homemade biscuit maker, you definitely want to gather your ingredients in one bowl and then sift them into another bowl. That way everything is blended nicely. Baking powder and baking soda do not taste good. And if you don't get them sifted in, you can end up with big clumps of that all together, and it'll really ruin the taste of your biscuit in that bite. We go ahead and get everything measured out. We'll put that into the bowl, create, add all of our dry ingredients, the bacon, the cheese, add our butter, and cut that in. And then we're going to create a little well. We'll add part of our buttermilk, pulling and incorporating the dry ingredients into it. Once that's absorbed, we'll add the rest of the buttermilk. Continue. We do not want to work this into a dough. We just want it sort of clumping together. Overworking biscuits, getting the butter to melt by touching it with your hands or leaving it out on the counter too long, that's the enemy of good biscuits. So we want to make sure we got very cold butter and that we're using utensils to move this dough around rather than our hands. We want to minimize touching. So we'll go ahead and get this sifted and together and out on the board. All right, so we've got our biscuit dough on the board. We've floured the board to make sure that we're not sticking to it. And like I said, we don't really want to use our hands as much as possible. So I'm going to use my flat scraper to pull everything together and fold it into actual dough. Get these little crumbled pieces to mix up. So we're just going to pull and mash, push and mash. And we're going to pull this into basically a little rectangle, about 3 by 5, maybe 4 by 6, depends on how much dough you're making. But we're going to go ahead and get this thing all into that little batch. Once we do, we're going to actually cut it in half, stack one half on top of the other. This is what's going to create flakiness. So after we stack it together, we're going to go ahead and mash those together. And then we'll continue bringing in any of those little crumply pieces that fell off. Get them incorporated. We're going to finish this process by doing this another 2 to 3 times. And then once that's done, we'll get our rolling pin and flour it so it doesn't stick. Roll these out to about a 1/2 inch thickness. And then we're going to cut our individual biscuits and put them either onto a baking sheet that's lined with parchment paper so they don't stick, or a cast iron skillet that has been greased so that they don't stick. Today we're going to be using the cast iron skillet. Either method will work for you. We're going to go into a 400-degree oven for 12 to 15 minutes. You'll just have to check them because depending on how thick you actually got them and how your oven cooks, it could take 12 minutes, could take 15 minutes, may take 16 or 17. Just check it. Make sure you don't burn them. once we've got these in the oven and they come out, they're going to be beautiful golden brown. We're going to put on a little maple butter. You can put on jelly, whatever you like to do with them. We'll add the sausages and some eggs for a delicious breakfast. All right, you can see these things turned out beautiful. Some of the cheese on top gets that really nice crusty color. We go ahead and cut these open. You can see the big chunks of bacon. You can see the cheddar cheese. We get these onto the plate. Like I said, we used maple butter. You can use whatever you want on it. Inside the sausages, you can see the peaches. You can see the seasonings. They are absolutely delicious. They're just a little sweeter than you would expect because we added that little bit of brown sugar, but it works perfectly with the peaches and the pork. Absolutely amazing. We're giving away a 5-piece cast iron lodge cookware set when we hit 1,000 subscribers. All you have to do is like a video and subscribe to the channel to be entered in the giveaway.